So our thought would be we, spend like half an hour here, and then we go to Water's Edge toward that, and then have some lunch.
Okay.
Do it from there. We don't want to pull people up, but again, we got it all. We got the film.
When I get here, I wanted to see it.
Yeah. Gordon Ridgway, First Selectman, Town of Cornwall.
Steve Mangillo, Program Manager for the WPCA in Old Saybrook.
Betsy Preston from Cornwall.
Steve McDonald, WMC Engineers, working for the Town of Cornwall.
Jim Vanoli, Town of Old Saybrook, Site Manager, WPCA.
See ya. Tom Barrett with the Cornwall Chronicle.
Okay. And I'm Todd.
No, it catches it. Once it starts doing its job, it accelerates.
So what impresses me about this building is you can't tell what it's doing, what's inside. There's no sound. You hear the cars. You see the railroad track. There's no sound. There's no odor coming out of the building. And apparently this place not only does the Coles building, but you've got restaurants, stores all around it, handling all that. There are underground tanks here, and a system underneath the road that we're going to go see how this all works. But this whole place is being run by this building, and it's a beautiful day in Saybrook.
Yep.
What's the capacity, Steve, of this?
He told me it was around 5,000 gallons per day, so about half of what you're looking at for West Cornwall.
This is half.
Yeah. But the building size would be about the same, but this has got the xenon membranes, which are the vertical membranes, and therefore the height of the building. The height of the building, if you look at the building, it only needs to be as high as the brickwork or the blockwork. The frame on top is simply for looks, but still, it's a decent-sized building. But
And the footprint? Do you have any idea what that
I don't know the
footprint
footprint. The operator may
It's
know.
like 25 by 30, I think. 20 by 30. Hey Dave, how you doing?
Well, if we missed you, you were on the phone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Bill Iderola. I'm with Weston and Sampson, and I'm the operator at this treatment plant.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
This is our effluent. When the sun comes over the tank, you can see all the way to the bottom.
Wow. And how deep is it down to the bottom?
It's about 6 feet. I can drop a nickel and a quarter. You can tell the difference.
And where does this go?
This
Oh,
is our
goes
final
back
effluent.
and
this
goes-
up to a leaching field.
You have a leaching field. But some of it gets reused, you said.
Right. Whatever we don't, we reuse out of this tank. The excess gets discharged out to the leaching field.
And any system is going to have three major components. You're going to have collection, you're going to have treatment, and then you're going to have dispersal in some form or other. Now, your collection system would be a little bit more elaborate because you're going to more places and treatment the same, and then
This discharges
is
into
the river.
the property
Right.
as opposed to discharging
You
straight
talk
into
about
a
the
river.
dispersal.
Yeah, that's throughout the
leaching
right.
fields, which is a
There's 2 pumps in there.
Oh, okay.
And the pumps pump it into the field, and it discharges through the field.
So this is clear, absolutely clear.
Under the parking lot.
The quality is five times cleaner than groundwater.
5 times cleaner than ground.
With respect to turbidity, I believe the turbidity limit for groundwater is 0.5.
Okay.
This is 0.1 or less.
Okay, so
All right, so here we are in beautiful Saybrook. We're at the Water's Edge Resort. The Long Island Sound is on the other side of this building, and underneath this addition to the old original part of the inn is a sewer plant. So you can't really tell when you're out here in the parking lot where it is. So we could play Where Waldo or whatever we want to play. But I believe from our last visit that the sewer plant is located underground, and you can't really tell from here, but it's underneath this building here to the right, which is in addition. You can see there's an entryway there to find the old part of the building. When they built this structure and they upgraded this, is approximately, I believe, 100 room hotel here, 2 restaurants, banqueting facilities, weddings, the whole deal. Plus 100 timeshares are hooked into this whole system. So there's a lot of capacity coming in here. I think it's about double, at least double what we're talking about in West Cornwall as far as the amount of people that are here. And there it is. So, and I think it's been in place there for over 20 years.
20 years?
Yeah. Because again, because they do not have a centralized sewer system here, a big sewer system, each thing has to be accommodated on site. So basically, again, you can see manholes underneath all this parking lot. So they use this leach field here underneath the parking lot, and that one up there, you see those cars are elevated. That's another big treatment area. They had to bring in all that sand and raise that up to treat the effluent, because they cannot discharge directly into the Sound. They could discharge into the Connecticut River, which goes into the Sound, but you can't discharge into the Sound directly.
But the river's far away, right?
The river is a couple miles away.
But the Sound is right behind.
Yeah. How far away from the river?
They won't let them.
You know?
Which river?
The Connecticut River, a couple miles.
Oh, that's a ways, but probably.
This is a xenon here too?
Yeah, but as I said before, everything down this way is an on-site system.
Right.
That's the requirement. So you could, the river is rated so you could discharge.
Right. But they're not close enough.
But it wouldn't be close enough for an individual facility to do anything like that.
Good. Well, let's go find. Okay, Ash, take a picture. We're taking you a 5-star Diamond Award restaurant.
Wow.
5 stars or something?
5-star septic system.
5-star septic.
Yeah, yes it is.
Perfect. There you go. Go bring it to a store right here.
Oh, that's it.
On the big house site. We're taking it all down.
All right, here's the man.
You guys ready?
Yep.
Can everybody go stairs or do we need elevator?
More at least. 40 minutes. We got water there. Need the aggregate, yeah. $84. It's going to be a lot worse for the British. Yeah, we were going to come in this entrance. You're out there on your own.
Hello. I'm good. How you doing? Yes. Sure, go ahead. That's fine. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, but take care.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Serious septic. Does that go into this all into the same?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Whole laundry house.
Well, it's a laundry. That's the laundry house.
But that's water. A lot of water everywhere. Well, there it is. Look at that xenon membrane.
Well, you've seen this before, right? Look at the tank down there.
No, I haven't been here. No, I didn't come that last trip. The older or younger?
So what we have here is two separate systems. You got laundry and you got hotel. So the two blue tanks are bioreactors. Okay? So you have one bioreactor for laundry, one bioreactor for hotel. That's a 6,000 gallon tank. And what we do with there is we take all the water from the washing machine and I'll go into that tank right there. And when the computer sees that the water's coming up and it's at level to start, we'll send it through that piece of equipment right there, which is a lint filter. And it takes all the lint out of the water. Then it puts it into the bioreactor, which same thing, when the computer sees the water start coming up, it starts filtering the water and puts it back into this 6,000 gallon pool, which they use for water. So it's a closed system. So pretty much for every 100,000 gallons that I make, it makes the water, I take about 1,000 gallons out by a septic tank. So that's a closed system. That's the only way we get it out of here. But we reuse the water. Yep. And every 100,000 we take 1,000 gallons out.
Put it where?
Depends on how much it costs. Busy season, it's quicker. Sometimes I let it go because the trucks are so big, they don't like to come here for just 500, 1,000 gallons, so I'll let it go to 2,000. I'll take these out. 200,000 made, and then I take 2,000. It's about 10% for every 50,000 gallons.
You hire somebody to come in and take it out?
Yeah, we have a septic company that we hire. We have a set rate, and that's all part of our process. We'll get into that when we get over to the hotel. So once we start making water for laundry, it goes through these carbon filters, these 3 carbon filters, and that's really just for if there's any odor left in it or any color, because you don't want any of that in the laundry. So these 3 carbon barrels will take that out. And all water, like I said, from the washing machine is pulled out of that holder there. Now we get into the hotel. Hotel is completely different. The hotel, from all over the whole yard, there's 16 septic tanks on site, okay, and 6 pumping stations. So what happens is we pull the solids out by the septic tank, and we only treat the water coming out of the septic tank. So all the solids are taken out in the septic tank, which the septic company will come every month. We have a schedule that they take the solids out. So now as the water comes out of the septic tank, it goes outside to a 50,000 gallon holding tank, which then it comes in. When the computer sees that, come up to a certain height and start pumping that water in, pumps it into the bioreactor, which you hear running right now, and it starts making the water. Puts it into that 8,000 gallons I got a picture of the membrane.
So, this septic pumping, did they have a septic company come and pump at the Coles place?
No.
No, because they have grinders?
Oh, there's a picture of the membrane. That's what the membrane is. Yep. Those will be hanging in the tank. Where's the camera?
I think I took a picture of this already. Thanks.
Did you see that? So those are hanging in the tank, and that's what's pulling the water out and putting it into the holding tank over there.
Is there maintenance on the membrane?
Yes.
How often?
But every 6 months they're cleaning. If you look right there, we have a dip tank, they call it. The small tank in between the two dip tanks. And there is a membrane in there right now. So you have to put the membranes in there when you do acid wash and chlorine wash. Right. So it's like a 48-hour. In there's 2 4-packs and 2 2-packs. And then here there's just 1 4-pack.
How many thousands of gallons a day is this designed for? This system?
The laundry is designed for 7,500 gallons a day, 12,000 gallons max. The hotel is, our permit is 36,000 gallons a day, which a max of 45,000 gallons a day. So the 36, you could go 45, but at the end of the month you better average out 36.
How many rooms are in the hotel?
Geez, I'm not sure. There's something.
I heard 120.
Yeah, I
Just
think
the
you're right.
hotel.
120 just the hotel, and then you got timeshare.
Timeshare, another 100.
And then you have the
Timeshare.
lodge on the other side.
What is right above us here? What part
It's
of
a Westwood ballroom. Ballroom. The foam is for soundproofing. We had issues way back before I came with noise above it, so they put this in. That sort of helped it. You hear it's a little. It's not real noisy, but it's got that hum. You don't hear that up there anymore with this insulation. And that room on the other side where the blowers are, that's all insulated also. That would be the most noise for the blowers. So the bioreactor for the hotel that's 30,500 gallons, and it's sectioned into 4 sections. So the first section is considered an anoxic zone. That means there's no air in it. And then the next chamber is an aeration chamber. The next chamber is an aeration chamber. And the final chamber where the membranes are, the pump chamber, that's also aerated. And then what happens is we have a recirculation pump that goes out of the effluent end of this tank, puts it back into the influent end of the tank, which is the anoxic zone, which helps our nitrification process.
How old is the hotel?
2,000 maybe?
What's the life expectancy of the tank?
Well, if you notice, that tank's not going to come out of there. So you have to maintain it. So the whole inside is coated. So we were just in that tank, not this past January, the January before, checked all the linings, fixed the aeration, fixed everything in there. And while you're in there, you have to inspect the coating. And you could bring people in there to fix your tank if you have to. Those tanks are in here for good. The equipment, you're always working on it. There's maintenance on equipment. Membranes, you have work to do on it. Pump stations outside. Now, what happens with the water from the hotel that's in that big white storage tank? When we're bringing it up to the toilets, we have to pump blue dye into it.
Right.
Just to make sure there's no cross connection between the drinking water. So we pump, you see the blue going in right here? From half of this, the hotel side, everything on the hotel side, if you look in the toilets, they'll be blue. So if you go to the bathroom, flush your toilet, it'll be blue water. So we recycle that water. We recycle it just so we don't have to send so much out.
Right.
We're reusing it.
how much are you processing a day? What's your flow per day? I mean, it must vary by the year,
Yeah,
day to year.
When we get busy, we could get up to 30,000 a day.
30,000 a day.
When we're not busy, we say maybe about 20, 15 to 20.
So
Real
good.
slow, you may get down to 8,
Right.
9, 10.
Yeah. And so this has been in place for almost 20 years, something like that. I mean, so you just have maintenance as opposed to any major issues from a failure or.
Yeah, it's just maintenance, make sure
Right.
everything's running. You get daily readings, you can tell when something's going on by your,
Right.
by your data. I got paperwork over there you guys can look at after. But you can pretty much tell before something happens there's something wrong.
And you have to test the water every day to make sure it's within a certain
Weekly.
range. Weekly. So you're discharging water that's a certain level of purity set by the state. So you
Which
can't.
state report every month.
Right.
That goes to DEP, goes to the local health department and the WPCA in Westbrook.
And what information is on that report as far as nutrients
I can show you.
Flow information, effluent quality.
So basically, this is a normal state report right there, and I'm going to pass it around and look at it.
This is every day.
That's a monthly report. Monthly report. I get readings every day to put on the monthly report.
Do you replace the? Do you have to replace the pumps very often? How many pumps do you have here?
Well, are you talking about pump stations too? We got 6 pump stations. In here we got 2 pumps. If you notice on the top there, there's 2 pumps here. So it could run with 1 pump. So if you have a problem, fix that one. You always have double on everything. I have double on the shelf with everything. So if something goes, you're in the busy season, you can't stop. You gotta keep going.
Do you have to replace pumps very often?
No. There's one pump that one died right here. There's a pump that's in the
Three-phase pump.
3-phase pumps. Yep. If you look at it, see how it wore? This goes on the shaft of the motor right here. Okay. And then the flexible impeller goes onto that. The bearing in this motor went, so it seized it up. They wanted to keep going, so it just wore this shaft right off. See how it just wore it right off? So it was just spinning in there.
What was the sump pump used for?
Sump pump is down there. We got groundwater coming in from outside, and we also have we got 2 separate chambers there. One's for just the drains down in there from anything that gets like wash water or anything else. That goes back to the head of the plant. Groundwater goes out.
Is it a water table issue? When you
Yes.
get water?
Well,
It's raining a lot.
you always have.
Hurricanes.
Yeah.
Not only hurts, that thing runs constantly. So this
Are
is
we
our-
below are we below the sound here? Down there?
No, I don't think so, because we're up on a hill. But this is the reports for our wells. So this is a quarterly report. Outside we have a leach field. Around the leach field we have monitoring wells. So every 3 months we have to also sample them. That goes to DEP and the health department and WPCA. But this is a normal monthly report right here. This is that one there was every 3 months.
This is a full-time job for you?
Yes.
And how do you have backup?
The engineering department.
There's people.
They're here pretty much till 11:30 at night. But everything's on an alarm system too. If you look over here, that box right there, that's on the wall. That's an auto dialer. So any kind of problem I have, it's going to call the front desk first, and then it calls my cell phone. So we know right away when there's a problem. Generator backup is just for this in here, and our pump stations. So we have two generators. One is up by the shed over there, and that's for a pump station. And then one's outside here, and that's for this right here. We're trying to get maybe a bigger one so it could do some of the hotel. But right now it's just the generator outside just does this. Because you always have to keep this going.
How far are we below ground here? Is that is the beam ground level, more or less? Or?
Yes. Beam is ground level. So then down there it's
Gotta be 20 feet.
25 feet.
What's that?
Okay.
You hear it, you don't even hear the beam unless it's very
Yeah, just coming.
nice. You don't hear any noise.
Boy, that's a Beatles swing. Oh, tribute to me.
Right above
Yeah.
the house?
Right. So it's air handlers.
Yeah, that's what you hear.
Yeah.
Up the air handle. That's noisier than anything else.
Yeah.
All right, let's go out this way.
Oh, here comes lunch.
I wanted one of those pizzas downstairs. Those flat filter boxes.
Thank you, sir. Oh, beautiful out. What a day.
What a day.
You have two 3,000 gallon grease traps, a 16,000 gallon septic tank, a 4,000 gallon pump chamber, and then a 50,000 gallon holding tank right here underneath the driveway, so you don't even see anything.
Do they put girders across for the weight? and that
Yeah,
kind
they
of infrastructure.
yeah.
There.
I'm sure they made it so with the trucks going over.
Can
it's
you
not
get
gonna-
down in there or no? Their tanks are buried.
No.
Well, we could get in there. There's manhole covers.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, last week we had a problem with the pump station. We had to get in, and a clean out plug blew out. So it was giving us an alarm. We had to go in there and clean it out. Which we bring in a company that has confined space entry to get inside. So we'll go up to the leach field right now. At the end of this parking lot is another pump station that pumps the water up to the leach field. So you don't even see that. It's down there by that gray car. Everything underground, you don't see anything. And up here is the big leach field. So this whole area is leach field underneath.
And this was, Steve, this
Fire
was for
department.
just part of the water, right?
Yes.
Because you're recycling.
Recycling.
Yeah.
This
And
is
then some of it goes up
10%.
on top of the other hill there. There's a small leach field. So this is the big leach field though. This
Yeah.
one takes most of it. In the whole parking lot, around the outside, like I said, there's the monitoring wells. That's where I get my samples.
And how deep, you had to build this up, right?
They built this up, yeah.
Because of the soil.
Well, they have to put in proper soil for the
Right.
drainage, and then the monitoring wells have to go around to make sure the drainage going out and it's clean.
And what if it's not?
Well, then we have to deal with DEP. That's why I sample
You have to sample.
sample and we send it.
And what might, have you ever encountered?
That's since I've been here. And they probably never will, because as long as it's built well, we're not going to have a problem.
One way or another.
So in here, there's also monitoring wells that go down. There's 1, 2, 3, 4.
This isn't paved
Here's,
just because
here's
of
one
cost.
observation port right here. If you open that up, you should see that dry. If you see water in there, that means it's coming up. So
Even though
there's
it
4 on
says
this
water.
side,
No water,
on
it
the other
should say.
side. Yeah, these are always dry.
Now, is this not paved just for cost purposes? And
Probably.
Okay.
Because on the other side we have a leach field that is paved. So.
Here, and then maybe Steve McDonald can give us a little insight on how these systems are different and similar to what we're thinking about Cornwall, because obviously we're in a little bit different part of the world. And whatever, so maybe just give us a little background of what's happening.
Just very quickly, the issue is very long-standing and very complex. Very long story short, maybe 20, 25 years ago, the state wanted Clinton, Westbrook, and Old Saybrook to put in a collection system, build a plant in Old Saybrook, and discharge to the Connecticut River to deal with wastewater along the shoreline here. And Old Saybrook fought it. I mean, there's just besides the technical challenges, there are very real political challenges to infrastructure changes. And there were people that opposed it, didn't want to do it. The issue ended up in court. And the settlement was that Old Saybrook was required to upgrade all their septic systems in an area that would take out the same amount of nitrogen that was intended to be removed by the plant. So that ended up being 2,000 residential properties. That had never been done before on that scale. It was a little tighter restrictions than the public health code. So the town set out to do it, and towns don't really have the resources. This is a $42 million construction project. They didn't have the resources, you know, the talent, the capability, or the expertise to do it. So they very quickly got in trouble, reorganized the program. I've been involved with the plant in New Haven for years. I was a biologist in the medical field and knew about this, so I ended up down here trying to help reorganize that program, get it to move forward. Jim Benoli happened to retire here. He's an engineer with 40 years experience in wastewater construction. So we got done basically what we could, but what we saw in the process of trying to do this on site is how difficult it was with the soil. Our problem here is we're very close to the oceans, very high groundwater, and it becomes really costly. And I think the only reason I mention that is just to point out that the businesses have to operate down here and have to put in systems, as you saw this morning, on site. And it's very costly, not only to put in, but to maintain. So it's a real challenge for businesses. And we still ended up with about 800 homes that we're looking at a collection system and some kind of treatment plant for. They can't be done on site. We've had some emergencies in the areas we hadn't gotten to, and one of those homes cost $70,000 to repair and meet code. So there's a point at which you just can't afford, even if you could technically do it, it doesn't make sense to do it on site. The other issue we have is sea level rise here. So we're facing increasing intrusion of salt water and higher groundwater, and that makes it harder to do. So that for Old Saybrook, that was the challenge. For you, you have porous soils. We at least have public water down here. So that wasn't, you know, we wouldn't have been, we have a couple of areas where we don't, and it's a real problem because we keep running into the setback issue where there isn't enough distance between the wells that exist and the septic fields to put in a fully code compliant system. So in your area, you have that challenge with trying to, if you did anything on site, you'd have to make sure you had enough area to accommodate your wells and not pollute not only the river but your groundwater. So I guess that's why Gordon called us to see, kind of get an idea of what our experience had been down here and see if we could help. But it isn't kind of directly your problem, but similar. I was happy to connect them with some people. We've met other people Jim and I have been exploring for several years while we were doing the other things. How are we going to finish this program? Because we're still under this court order. and what are we going to come up with? We're in that phase now where we've done everything we can do on site, and we're trying to figure out a way forward. But all the towns along the shore are facing the same issues, especially as people have changed from just spending a few weeks here in the summer to, more intensively using those properties and converting them to year-round, or wanting to add other functions, garbage disposals, huge tubs. So those all impact an on-site septic system.
Did you say $21 million?
42.
$42 million?
That was the approximate cost of the on-site system. They viewed it very simply. They had never done it before. They just estimated a cost for the tanks. I don't know what formula they used to figure out the cost per property, but it became obvious to us as we did them that it got more and more expensive with the difficulty of the system. So you get to a point where it's feasible to do other options that have other advantages. On-site systems are also very vulnerable to coastal storms, which is an issue we have here. And that's happened in recent years, where systems have just gotten ripped out of the ground and you lose your initial investment totally. So that's always a concern of on-site. With rising sea level, it just seems obvious you have to pull the waste away from the shore, treat it somewhere else to allow those homes to exist there. If you want to, you're spending money for infrastructure that's going to last you 30 to 50 years, so you have to think, what are your challenges and circumstances going to be over that time, and are you going to be able to maintain your structure for that long, have it be cost effective.
So Steve, it seems that this area where we're at right now is really thriving, where you're on the sound, you have very valuable property. In other parts of Saybrook we've seen that aren't connected, it seems like the businesses are sort of standing still.
Yeah, well, our businesses aren't connected to any collection system. Our commercial areas have to rely on on-site septic. So the last time you were down here, we went to Saybrook Point Inn.
Right.
Yeah, that for one. They're right on the water, and have to spend a lot of time and energy, as you saw, to maintain a system for that. It's a facility like this. It's just a little smaller. They have a marina there, a little different.
But on the main street of Saybrook by the Catherine Hepburn Theater,
Right.
it seemed like those businesses were sort of in
Well, yes and no. I mean, yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's a challenge to increasing business. One of the things that, one of the opinions people in town hold is that if we don't put in that system, then we won't get bigger box stores and other large commercial entities. But still, there are restaurants that would like to come here and can't do it because they can't get the seating or the capacity. So there are definitely limitations on the business community because the infrastructure isn't there, and you always want to balance, the cost of what do you have to do to keep your communities viable and growing. I mean, I think as you've seen in this world now, technology changes so quickly, and businesses come and go, and the needs change. So, areas that aren't able to accommodate those businesses and changes don't survive. It's that simple. You have to think not only for today, but for the future.
Yeah. So, Steve, how are these systems different or similar to what you're proposing?
They're identical in concept to what we're looking at. Basically, you've seen as we've talked about, the technology is called membrane bioreactor technology. And that's the membranes that all these plants have. And you've seen the oldest one virtually in the state right here, and you've seen one of the newest ones in the state at Coles. And there are obviously some differences. The sound is different there. The membranes are different. We've seen two Xenon systems. Xenon is a name brand. There's many manufacturers of membranes that are being used. So you're not tied to Xenon. That's just a name brand, basically.
Okay.
And then, as we've talked about, most of the Xenon systems we've looked at today, for example, in both places, the membranes are taken out of the tanks vertically, which affects the height of the building. I said earlier, if you noted the membranes here compared to Coles, the space between the top of the tank and the ceiling is much less than at Coles. So obviously the membranes here, for whatever reason, are shorter, whether it's older technology or whatever. So that's the kind of things we're going to have to look at in terms of keeping the building as unobtrusive as possible. And as Todd's talked about, putting as much of it as underground as possible. But that's all kind of just siting issues. The technology is the same for all of these, for Salisbury School, for Coles, for here, for the Westbrook factory storage, for a dozen of these or more across the state. So, and the advantage of it is that we've all talked about, they're not cheap to run, but the advantage of it, they typically work extremely well. You've seen the effluent quality. The effluent quality is very, very good, much higher than it would be in the river, for example. They're reliable systems, and therefore they're robust. And they can handle variations in flow and waste loads very well. For example, West Cornwall, where you can have and like here, summertime population is dramatically different than wintertime population. And that's where xenon systems also, because of the way they operate, they react to that variation in flow and waste load very, very well. So it's a very robust system that works. But they're all basically the same. Here they have steel tanks. That was the older technology. We're going to use steel tanks. Now they're tending more to try to do concrete tanks in the ground for the actual treatment system. That's basically the difference that they've done. But as Steve said, technology always changes. The membranes get better, more reliable, more efficient, so you can make them smaller.
I think Xenon was owned by GE. Now they sold out. I don't think that's that name
GE,
anymore.
At one time, Xenon, I think, well, I used to know the president of Xenon, whatever, the guy that invented it, I forget his name now, which we got to meet him when we did the Westbrook factory stores. And then GE had a similar system. They were trying to sell their own brand of membranes. And I hope they combined and separated. It's like any companies. They blend and diverse. And, yeah.
The coal equipment had GE on one of the units there. So.
Yeah. So GE probably bought them out at one point. Buy out your competitors. The best you can do, right? So, but the membranes are all they work the same way essentially. So.
Gordon, I don't know, Jim, you want to add anything to the conversation? Might help with?
I think that about covers it. You're not looking at any on-site work. You're looking at a collection system with a discharge.
Yeah, one of the advantages that West Cornwall, we believe, has is for them, depending on the siting of if this ever goes ahead and there's a plant sited somewhere in the center of town, most all the businesses and any residents that might go into can be collected by gravity. So we're not going to need a pump station. We might need 1 or 2 grinder pumps for individual businesses, but other than that, everything can flow by gravity to the treatment system, which is nice. So
that's a huge advantage.
It's a huge advantage. We try to avoid pump stations at all costs.
Yeah, as you know, what we're facing here is it's pretty flat. So and we don't have even a even slope in one direction or the other. So we're looking, you know, at some kind of pump
You've been to West Cornwall, so you know what it's like. It all goes downhill to the river.
Would that decrease the noise?
What's that?
With less pumping?
To some degree, yeah. I mean, if you don't have a pump station, you don't have pump station noise, but so you'll have no pump stations, so you'll have virtually no noise from pump stations. You will have noise at the treatment plant, but as we've seen today, particularly at Coles, it's pretty unobtrusive. And once you insulate the building and you use the centrifugal blowers, you're not even know it's there.
Well, why would you say particularly at Coles? This one, we're sitting on top of it and don't hear.
Well, they've insulated the floor, obviously. They did have an issue, as he noted, early on. But again, that was 20 years ago, or more. I think it's even more than 20 years, to be honest with you. But it's at least 20 years old. So they've had to do some additional work to isolate the treatment down below.
Depends on the use too. I mean, if you have a room where you're giving a lecture, even a little hum is an annoyance. I mean, in most cases, you might not even notice it.
I mean, you take this facility, like right now, what are we hearing? Air conditioning. So you're not going to hear anything other than that unless the air conditioning is totally not working. Well, we understand that there's neighbors going to be possibly living next to this facility that, you know, it's probably pretty quiet in West Cornwall at night, I would think.
We only want to hear the birds.
That's right. That's right. That's right. No, I understand. So basically, it's a little different situation. So you got to be very, very careful of the noise situation there, which I think is, from what we've seen, I think we've all seen, the various plants is doable.
They've been working on this.
Gordon, you brought the other gentleman down here who was interested in putting a restaurant in, and I know after he looked at it, he was, I would imagine, pretty sort of relieved and got a lot of his questions answered in terms of concerns that he had, what he wanted to do.
You generally don't think restaurant and sewer plant in the same building, but again, it's good to see what some ingenuity can do, because obviously we're really constrained in the village with all the very small lots. We have a 1/10 acre, some of the lots are a 1/10 of an acre, we have private wells, we have a very tightly spotted place here, but what we've learned from here is how you can put these in and you don't even know which building they're in, so it's good to see the innovation. Any other questions, or we're going to go to have lunch?
I have a quick question. How does the grinders operate? Are they installed as part of the original system, or does each homeowner need to install one where they need it? Is that a mechanical operated?
You're talking for individual home grinder pumps?
Yeah.
Typically, it depends on the source of funding and how the town wants to fund the project in general, but we've designed systems where the grinder pump, the initial installation is done as part of the project cost. They typically run about, say, $10,000 to $12,000 between the pump and the installation, running the line out to the road. And then subsequent to that, it's a town decision whether the homeowner is responsible for maintaining that pump or it becomes a town responsibility. If you only have 1 or 2 grinder pumps, I would suggest the property owner might be responsible for the maintenance of it. The cost to maintain them is not that high. It's like I think they say it's equivalent to like a 100-watt light bulb in terms of energy consumption. And the pumps that we would propose are very, very reliable. It's like a well pump basically. But you might have 1 or 2 in your system at most.
So that's not hooked up to the system's generator?
No, that would be an individual. But the thought for most towns, and particularly West Cornwall, where you're relying upon wells for water supply, if you lose power, you lose water for the most part, unless you're stored some water or get onto the river or whatever.
You feel it's backed up before the storms come.
Yeah. But these grinder pumps do have some storage capacity in them, or they could be run by, if a person's got a standby power generator, then they could be run that way. But again, we're talking a couple of systems, a couple at most. We would try to eliminate those, and maybe sort of minimize the number of the system. Everything else flows, the engineer's best friend, flows by gravity, downhill.
Great. All right, thank you all for making the trip.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay.